Hello, all. My name is Elaina Cassity, and this is my feminist manifesto on space, place, and language entitled Breathing in a Time of Affliction. Who I am. To start off, I am a feminist scholar with lived experience and knowledge stemming from a life lived in the southern U.S. Although I'm a feminist scholar with research deeply rooted in decoloniality and self reflexivity, at the end of the day, I am a privileged, white, cisgendered, Western researcher. My goal is not to appropriate space and place that belongs to others, but to utilize my privilege in a way that queers discourse and conversations. I never intend to speak for others, only to use my position to empower and expand discussion. My theories of feminism that I employ tend to center on transnational feminism, immigration discourse, queer theory, and borders. Place and space are pretty focal points of my general research, as are the ways in which bodies operate within places and spaces, which is what I'll be talking about today. To start, waging war on the body. When I say the word place, I'm referring to a concrete idea. My usage of place entails discussions of more material settings that allow, violate, and shrink bodies. When I utilize the word space, I am alluding to a more continuous and extensive concept. Space is something that can be confined, freeing, strenuous, exhausting, and/or policed. Space, as Foucault states, is also a site where power is practiced. There are spaces between, amongst, and within all of us. Every day we must constantly work to perform the ideal version of ourselves, to embody our identities fully. Navigating this space is harder for some than others, depending on how deviated our existence is, and therefore our bodies are. The borders between what we can be, what we should be, and what we are become blurred. Borders become a marker on the corporeal, a sign of how well and how often you are performing your identity within various spaces. We carry these borders, redrawing them as needed, so that we may better contort ourselves into a place and/or space which fits. Our language plays an integral part in how we shrink or build our bodies to fit into places and spaces. It is rhetoric that transforms a place into the violent, the subversive, or the calm. When 50 migrants from Latin America twist their bodies so they may fit into the bed of a semi-truck entering the U.S., the four walls which carry them immediately transform from benign to malignant. That place, those walls, are no longer passive observers, but active agents. When the same 50 bodies are found consumed by heat a week later, the language which describes their demise determines their worth. The rhetoric seeks to close physical borders, to further police bodies, to create more patrol officers. The rhetoric lacks the awareness that comes with looking inward. Those who wield power purposefully refuse to gaze at the constricting policy, damaging ideology, or the dichotomous thinking the U.S. labels as its foundation. Instead, the rhetoric villainizes and alienates, smiling with the knowledge that it has transformed various bodies into permanent transgressors and deviants. Students who work for and work in neoliberal universities must robotically accept colonial epistemologies within their classrooms. The hundreds of walls that make up educational institutions facilitate a place and space, which require students and staff alike to perform and teach as colonizer. The language within classrooms determines the future of disciplines, the future of life itself. Yet the language is used so apathetically that no one has time to digest the tyranny. Everyone opens their mouths, accepts the food of the oppressor, swallows it whole, and acts as if imperialism tastes just as good as it did 550 years ago. There is, for all intents and purposes, a war on bodies and identities enacted through language. Language decides if anyone, if anything, will be terrorizing, disruptive, healing, or all of the above. Language determines ideology. Ideology determines if the body in its identity is worthy. Spaces and places are shaped as a result of one's worthiness, or lack thereof. Birthing the norm. I openly condemn the neoliberal, colonizing, capitalist, white heteropatriarchy rooted in imperialist epistemologies. These penetrating ideologies have purchased, by some means or another, every facet of life in our globalized existence. Our economies, our politics, our food, our water, our emotions, our tears, our grins, have all been sucked dry of rightful joy. We now instead ask how much value these nouns possess. Can we sell them? Can we market them? Can we ship them to another place to be consumed? Can we consume them ourselves for the right price? I acknowledge these social structures as the cause of the demise of safe space and place, as well as the damning of those who cannot or refuse to embody the norm. The norm I refer to in this case is that identity which describes the ideal colonizer. It is a white, cisgendered, heterosexual, Christian, able bodied, middle class, aggressively mediocre man. He is the one that travels from space to space and injects power into the crevices of existence. He is the one, especially in a group with others of a like mind, who encourages all minority groups to despise each other, out of fear they will one day realize it is him that creates the conditions for their suffering. He is the one who defines beauty but does so poorly. He is the one who writes into existence the legislation which states immigrants do nothing, provide nothing, and are nothing. He is the one who encourages his peers to create policy which funnels immigrant caravans through the most dangerous part of the desert. The more of them who succumb to death, the better he is at his job. He is the one who kneels on black men's necks in the street. He is the one who rapes his wife because he believes he is owed a constant reminder of his authority. He is the one who beats other men in their own safe spaces for their queer identities. He is the one who calls for a federal ban on abortion, despite his mistress having had 3. He is the one who normalizes genocide. He is the one who straps on a gun and vest every day, calling himself police and protector, but targets the innocent and the oppressed. He is the one who starts wars. He is the one with a regimented and militarized day-to-day schedule, nervously avoiding time and coming to terms with how regretful his existence is. He is the one who travels to Afghanistan, killing people in the name of his God. He is the one who cherry-picks the Bible. He is the one who transforms theory into death sentences. He is the one who sits in the Oval Office. He is the one killing Muslims in mosques. He is the one who strips security and ease from places. He is the one who defiles spaces. He is the one who linguistically abuses those who don't exist as his carbon copy, simply because he can, and he will. Crying out in motion. If we are to collectively recognize the oppressive nature of those institutions and systems which we interact with daily, we must first acknowledge the importance that space, place, and language plays in shaping our perception. There is no dismantling without first radically accepting the role subversive influences play in our consciousness. To do this, we must exchange lived experiences and listen out loud. We must open our hearts to different lives and new people, to phrases and words which might very well operate as oxymorons to our current world. We must actively seek out the learning and unlearning of all people, places, and things. You and I must cry out and call in if we are to see any motion made. Collectively, there must also be an acceptance of how powerful radical existence can be. Rather than give in to despair and pass it on as a generational curse, there instead must be a constant and lovely feminist practice in our quotidian being. Despite how wearisome constant labor can be, it is our job to transform space into the ethereal, provide tranquility in place, and exercise language as a deafening and essential device which implements social transformation both within and without ourselves. And what this seems like too little, like the ruins of what society could have been are piling up at our feet, we must also learn to sit in grief. We cannot allow the fog to capsize the lungs or the desperation to settle into the spirit. We must read more, care deeper, and battle anguish one cup of tea at a time, so that when the time is right, our hands are steady enough to begin building anew.